Dieses Video, was ich euch zeige, das ist von einem Ersteller, der ist unfassbar jung, aber extrem kreativ. Also ich habe ja schon, Cupcake weiß es, es gibt eine Person, die mich schon demoralisiert hat mit seiner Welt. Aber dieser hier, der hat mich, danach war ich am Boden zerstört, danach wollte ich Minecraft nie wieder spielen. Das sage ich euch, weil was der gebaut hat, das ist jenseits von Gut und Böse. Ja, machen wir noch einen Vollbildmodus, dann seht ihr das ganze Ding. Ich habe echt nicht gedacht, dass ich nach dieser einen Welt, nach dieser fantastischen Welt, dass es noch irgendjemand schaffen könnte, ja, mich also meine Motivation in den Keller zu befördern, aber dieses Video hat es geschafft. Also jetzt hoffe ich mal, dass ihr Ton habt und wir schauen das Video noch ein bisschen weiter. Ist gut, wenn der Fabi jetzt geht, weil sonst ist er hinterher auch noch demotiviert, wenn der das gesehen hat, was hier gebaut wurde. Ich glaube, dann ist dem seine Motivation in Sachen Minecraft auch im Keller.
Just like a boggy marshland, whack on some shaders with rain puddle effects, and I've created the ultimate bog. Simple, but effective.
Ugh, am I a joke to you?
No, a different kind of bog. I didn't mean...
Just get on with the trees, bro.
Okay, since the creaking is literally a walking tree mob, which will actually be transforming later, I feel like it makes sense to use it to inspire the trees.
Der Typ hat auf jeden Fall einiges auf dem Kasten, das sage ich euch.
And twisted, so the tree should match, right? Well, apparently, the pale garden trees are inspired by willow trees. Maybe they aren't a perfect match, but this has given me some ideas on how I can improve them. And whilst building some new and improved trees, I got thinking about the story behind this place.
Da baut er halt einfach so einen Baum hier. Ja, wäre ich schon völlig überfordert.
From a nearby volcanic eruption. Sounds pretty far-fetched. But I did literally plonk a custom volcanic biome right next door.
Und dann baut er hier einfach eigene Biome. Ich sag euch, ich habe euch das Video angeschaut und mir ist die Kinnlade runtergeplumpst, aber richtig.
I don't actually know if creaking could even spawn in here. Maybe it's a bit too dense. Okay, let's just tweak the settings a little bit, and maybe this is a little bit better. Yeah, that's more like it. Obviously, this is a less dense area, but I can definitely crank it up a notch here and there. So now I've got to do that, but maybe 100 more times across the entire biome so that I don't crash the server. Oh, wish me luck, guys. Anyway, the whole biome with trees. But why do I kind of hate it? Don't get me wrong, from the ground it looks pretty cool, but there's not much variation, and from up here it just looks so messy to me. And I don't know if it's just because it's 6 AM and I've been placing great trees all night long, or yeah, maybe it's that.
Back
to the drawing board. And I got thinking, sure, this is the Pale Garden, and it needs to have some pretty dense areas, but I could definitely create some creepy clearings with scorched trees and rotting stumps left in the wake of those volcanic eruptions I mentioned earlier. That'll also help to break up the landscape and hopefully scratch that irritating itch I've been feeling about this environment. Long story short, I've pretty much scrapped the whole
Ich glaube, der Kerl, der hat einfach zu viel Zeit.
More time into each area. I even carved out a space for the boss battle we'll be working on later, surrounded by broken trees.
Da baut er da einfach da so einen Wald hin.
Whatever boss lives here has some anger issues. And after taking this more varied approach to each area of the biome, things really came together. There was finally enough variation without losing the essence of the vanilla biome. You'll even spot some glow lichen in the shrubs to add an ambient glow across
das sieht
the biome.
ultra geil
and of
aus.
course, the new eye blossoms, which specifically open at night.
Guckt mal da.
This place is already creeping me out, guys. But I finally feel like it's come together nicely, and I got thinking, the story about the volcanic ash gives me the perfect excuse to build a totally new structure, the Pale Mansion, which would be a twist on our old favourite, the Woodland Mansion. So how am I going to build this Pale Mansion structure? Well, I started with what any sane Minecraft builder would do, and hopped on a plane to freezing cold Germany in the middle of winter.
Ja, weißt du, und dann reist er einfach nach Köln, um sich die Gebäude in Real Life anzugucken. Weißt du, guck mal da, guckt er sich einfach den Kölner Dom an.
Which also happens to be one of the largest cathedrals in the world. This place honestly felt like someone switched off the world height limit, got carried away with a Minecraft build, and lost all sense of scale. So after making myself feel incredibly small, we then drove across snowy Germany to find a castle that could inspire the Pale Mansion concept. And I've got to say, I think we succeeded. Hiking around the snowy mountains surrounding this epic castle was tough. But seeing this awesome structure from all angles really gave me some cool ideas for what I could build and how it should feel for you guys in-game. Okay, I'm back. I've just about defrosted my fingers and I'm feeling inspired to build. But if I'm going to release this video for you guys anytime soon, I need to speed up a lot. So let's crank things up a notch. I'm going to challenge myself to build this entire pale mansion in just 24 hours.
Ja, und jetzt pass auf.
Right, so it's about 4 PM right now.
Dann streamst du künftig nur noch vom Garten aus.
This way, I can clearly see all of the shapes and
Jetzt guck dir
proportions
das
of the
an,
buildings.
wie der das
But more
baut.
importantly, when it comes to painting, I can select specific sections to apply my palettes to. Inspired by my adventures in Germany, I was able to speed through the planning in just a few hours. And there's going to be a ton of space for an epic interior. Okay, next I've got to detail and paint. And this is the part that always takes a surprisingly long time, especially for the first few sections, because I'm always trying to find that perfect style for me. But I locked in and stuck
Genau
at it.
so habe ich auch
Adding as much
geguckt.
variety across the build as I
24
could.
Stunden. Ich muss irgendwann mal einen Timer laufen lassen,
it was going
was
so
ich
well.
in 24 Stunden geschissen
It's
kriege, ja?
currently 12:25. My server's crashed on me, so we're going to take a quick snack break and hope it's back up and running by the time I get back. Luckily, things were back up and running again when I got back. So, it's montage time.
Also jetzt mal ohne Witz, der muss doch irgendwie was, irgendwas programmiert haben, der muss doch irgendeine Mod oder irgendwas nutzen, wo der einfach
Guys, it's 10
bestimmte
AM.
Dinge,
It's finally done.
dass der bestimmte
Okay, wait,
Dinge
I do
kopieren
love
kann
how
und
this
einfach
looks.
einfügen
You know
kann.
what?
Das kann
We
der
can do
doch
that.
nicht
There's something
bauen.
missing. Not just
Guck dir
from the
das doch
build,
mal an.
but from the story. And I've just had the coolest idea. It might be a bit ambitious for 24 hours, and I've only got 6 hours left, and I still need to do the interior. But let's see what I can do. So, what if a giant tree creature tried to save the woodland mansion during the eruptions, and now lies dormant beneath what is now the Pale Mansion? This is a crazy task I've given myself, so I'm going to try to work smart here. I've sculpted tons of organics over the years. There's got to be something I can use as a frame.
Ja, das hat er alles
Here
gebaut.
it is. Meet my old buddy Poseidon, god of the seas and one of my coolest organic builds from my Underwater Kingdom project. I'm thinking I can use this big boy as a frame and... yeah, okay. This might be a problem. Despite being giant, this dude is still way too small. I guess I've got to make a new frame. I decided to just start with the head sculpt first, as that's the most important part, and would give me a good idea on how
Alleine
much
schon
of the
das Ding
body will be
auszubuddeln
poking
hätte
up
ich schon
from the
24
terrain
Stunden
beneath.
gebraucht.
I'm really having to trust the process at this point, because this guy is looking wild. I've never really done a sculpt like this before, and I'm starting to wonder whether this is a good idea. And with only about 5 hours to go at this point, I've got to make this worth it. I think I've finally figured out why it looks so cursed. It's the nose. I think it would work if we were giving him a beard, but by itself it just looks really out of place. I'm good. Okay, yeah, that's better. Still looking pretty mad with all the colours, but I
An
think
wen
this could
erinnert dich
work.
die Nase?
Now I've just got to make a frame for the body so I can start adding branches on top, and then I can
Hat
make
ein bisschen
all the
was von
final
Groot,
adjustments.
gell?
So, what's
Oder
the deal with this
Voldemort.
giant tree guy anyway? Well, the biome used to be a forest, protected by tree folk known as Grove Guardians, which we'll learn more about later. When the Pale Garden fell into danger from the eruptions of the volcanic basalts, a giant Grove Guardian emerged from the depths of the forest, lifting the woodland mansion atop its head. The forest villagers took sanctuary in the Grove Guardian's chest, and then using its huge branch arms, the Guardian carved out a moat to help protect the inhabitants of the forest from the fires. Speaking of arms, I thought I could try using my buddy Poseidon again for the hands. I don't really think the proportion quite matches up. Like, what is this? It's like a tiny baby hand. Thankfully, I should just be able to select this, double it in size, and voila. We've got a hand that's a bit more in proportion.
Also da läuft doch irgendein Programm dahinter. Wie hat er sonst diese Hände vergrößern können?
Strength to create a protective moat, sacrificing itself to save its forest friends, and now lies dormant. But inside its chest, its heart became a conduit for the power
Ich frag
of
mich,
the
wie sowas
creaking,
funktioniert.
taking the opportunity to corrupt the biome and the guardians left within it. Unable to channel enough power to animate the giant guardian's corpse, the creaking heart latched onto the nearest thing it could animate, bringing the pale mansion to life and corrupting the souls within it. Okay, yeah, I know I sound like I've officially lost it, literally bringing builds to life, but let me explain. This biome was originally designed to feel lifeless, right? Yet the creaking mob concept takes something static from the environment and does the opposite. It brings it to life as a mob. So what if I did the same with the Pale Mansion? My head went straight to that movie Monster House, which certainly traumatized me as a kid, and having the structure actually be alive and interacting with you as a player would be an insanely fun and immersive experience. It will be like a giant creaking mansion. This place is looking absolutely insane, but I've only got 2 hours left, so it's time to head inside and get as much as I can finished for the interior. Now this build is insanely complicated, so just dissecting it in a way that makes sense was
Kompliziert trifft es noch harmlos, ja.
for you guys to find the pale dagger hidden in this place.
Guck dir diese Detailverliebtheit an. Ab dem Moment war ich dann draußen, so emotional.
In the entirety of the ultimate survivor world that can destroy the creaking heart that has brought the Pale Mansion to life. So it's kind of important. Anyway, you guys are already seeing way too much. All you need to know is that this is like one giant, lively escape room packed with surprises. From moving doorways, hidden passages, interactive puzzles, and much more. And someone has to live in this place, right? I wasn't going to make your escape from the mansion that easy. The inhabitants of this pale mansion were also corrupted by the creaking heart, becoming pale shadows of their former selves, now known as the Pale Revenant. A brand new custom mob I decided to add to the map, taking the original Woodland Mansion's mobs and giving them a spooky makeover. These ghostly figures wander the halls of the Pale Mansion, making your escape much more challenging. Okay, well, I'm exhausted. But
Einfach ein
it's
Gruselhaus.
pretty much finished. This was a lot to do in 24 hours. I didn't quite get the interior completely done, but I can whip up the rest of that with the help of a few friends off camera to keep it a surprise for you guys when you play for yourselves. This has got to be one of the coolest additions to the world so far, not just aesthetically, but functionally too. Jeez, I've got to admit, the more I'm adding to this biome, the more I feel like I'm being watched. Remember those forest villagers who took sanctuary in the Guardian's chest during all that chaos? Well, it's time to restore their village, but with a spooky twist. The giant Grove Guardian tried to protect the forest village from harm, extending its roots under the biome and pushing them up through the ground when they reached the village. These giant roots, despite the Grove Guardian's intentions, caused more harm than good, leaving the village in tatters and displacing huge chunks of the earth around it. The villagers, however, were still grateful for their guardian's sacrifice, and upon return to their homes, they decided to honour this sacrifice by rebuilding their village around the guardian's roots, so that they could remain close to the protector for generations to come. So with this spooky site being a big part of the Pale Villagers' culture, I got to work plotting
Ja,
out
und
their
jetzt
new
pass auf.
homes.
Jetzt baut er da einfach
I really wanted to make this place
ein
feel
Dorf
full of
drumherum.
character, with tall rooftops and stacked buildings, especially since it's built amongst such unusual landscape.
Und überleg mal, wie
So I
wir
took a deep
bei
dive
unserem
into
Märchenschloss
inspirations
mit
from Eastern
dem
Europe,
Dorf
from the
rumgammeln.
awesome wooden structures of Romania's Maramureş region to some really unique buildings in Bosnia, Moldova, and many more. Apparently this church in Romania was built to thank God for protection during the plague of 1710, so it actually lines up perfectly with the lore of our Pale Villagers, honouring the Grove Guardian's sacrifice with this Pale Village. And as you can see, I've plotted out a bunch of buildings amongst the Guardian's roots. We have a ton to work with here, so let's get started with the Pale Village profession buildings. First up, the Temple. Now I really love this build style, and I think it really suits this eerie colour palette. It's all pretty grey since we're in the Pale Garden, but I added beams, supports, window frames, and other details with some mud and spruce thrown in to break things up and add a little warmth. If only this was all as quick and easy as it looks in these time lapses. And on the inside,
Unfassbar.
I focused on more
Unfassbar.
Slavic
Guck dir das an,
influences,
diese
as I really
Details.
wanted to have some fun with Minecraft's paintings.
Ich
It may
komm
look
da
like a
nicht klar
church, and
drauf.
whilst it has some church influences just like Minecraft's original temple, these villagers have their own religion. And you guessed it, they worship their very own nature deities. Their Grove Guardian buddy did
Da
do them
baut
a
er eine
solid after all.
Kathedrale.
You'll spot a bunch of details in here. From confessionals to an
Guck
epic
dir das
organ I
an!
made using banner patterns.
Das ist doch nicht mehr normal.
I also thought, since this biome isn't exactly thriving with the creaking causing havoc, it would make sense for the villagers to import some of their goods from other biomes. So I decided to build them a general store, where they can stock up on imported supplies as well as goods made within the village. Inside you'll find just about anything and everything, with lots of food and general goods on level 1, equipment and storage on level 2, and then on level 3 I thought it'd be nice to have a little community centre, where the villagers can convene to discuss important Pale Garden matters. Anyway, you guys have already seen enough interiors for now. You'll have to discover the rest for yourselves when you download
Ja,
the
gell?
game.
Da fällt dir genauso wie mir die Kinnlade runter, ne? Wenn du das siehst.
Which seems to be changing all the time with all these tree folk moving things about. This is the home of the Pale Village's cartographer. Obviously, I whacked this one at the highest point in the village, creating this cool, elongated building that gets a nice 360 view of the biome. I whipped up a giant spyglass for the upper section, and I thought it'd be cool to add some flags so the cartographer can keep an eye on the wind, since the biome often gets ash blown across from the volcanic basalts next door, so the villagers have to be ready for that. Last but not least, I built this little globe statue outside, just so everyone knows where to find the cartographer. Next, the lumberjack. Now I know it seems a little odd to have a lumberjack in a village full of tree worshippers. Hear me out. With the creaking overrunning the biome, felling the trees is actually a very important job. Without keeping things under control, the whole biome will become too dense and dangerous, and the creaking will eliminate all other life in the Pale Garden. This place also has an important purpose in your survival playthrough too. You guys told me how annoying it was to chop down custom trees, ending up with a bunch of unwanted materials in your inventory. So our new lumberjack friend has a solution. Visiting the lumberjack villager and completing his requests will unlock the tree feller enchantment, which will allow you to chop entire trees in one, or maybe a few, fell swoops, without cluttering your inventory with the random blocks. Looks like our lumberjack friend needs to chop back some of these roots before they take over their backyard.
Ich weiß nicht, ob ich danach jetzt dann noch Minecraft spiele, weil ich bin schon wieder unfassbar demoralisiert, wenn ich das sehe. Ich habe mir das eigentlich angeschaut, weil ich neugierig war, wie der so baut, ne? Aber im Endeffekt hat er mich zwar schon eine gewisse Spur inspiriert, aber er hat mich echt unfassbar demoralisiert.
Okay, wow, this place is really coming along, but the burnout is hitting me big time now, especially with all the technical issues behind the scenes. So maybe I could use a hand detailing the rest of these buildings I've plotted out. Luckily, I knew just the guy, my good friend Brune, who just so happens to be an expert at gnarly trees, to help finish up the village. So the villagers rebuilt their village around the roots of the Grove Guardian to stay close to their protector. But the creaking, of course, has
Ja, okay, zu zweit geht's halt noch mal eine Runde schneller, ne? Zu zweit bauen ist halt einfach schon anders wild. Alleine sich den Kopf anstrengen ist schon, ja, schon ein bisschen sehr langweilig, aber mit mehreren sowas bauen, das könnte ich mir vorstellen, wenn so jeder so seinen Input reinbringt, ne?
Perfect. So, one last thing. In an attempt to keep their village lit up and protected from the creatures lurking in the shadows, the Pale villagers enchanted a giant eye blossom to light up their home. The blossom seeds have spread, blooming across the village, but wait, no, who stole the eye blossom? In all seriousness, you guys are going to need to get this back when you explore the world yourselves. This quest won't be easy though. The eye blossom has been well hidden and can only be retrieved during the Pale Garden's special biome event. You may remember the biome clock inspired by the Hunger Games in the island archives. Every biome on this island has an environmental event on a specific day. And the Pale Gardens is the Ashen Fog, a thick, ashy mist blowing across from the volcanic basalts, which renders the air unbreathable.
Aber ich werde das jetzt öfters machen, wenn ich so ein schönes Video finde, wo es um so Inspirationen geht und so, dann gucken wir uns das an.
Retrieve the giant eye blossom and restore the village's light source.
Da bist du wieder, Fabi. Sehr schön. Da kannst du dich jetzt noch 5 Minuten hier mit demoralisieren lassen. Jetzt kommt nämlich der Höhepunkt von dem Video.
Wait, actually, you've just reminded me. It's finally time for your transformation. I guess that explains you following me around. So as you guys know, long ago the Pale Garden was a very different biome, known by Minecrafters as the Forest. The biome was full of life,
Ja,
thriving
genau.
with magical
Du hast das
creatures
beste
and
Timing
protected by
getroffen.
wandering treefolk known as the Grove Guardians. When the neighbouring biome erupted with volcanoes, the forest was set ablaze and covered in ash, and almost all life in the biome was wiped out. The Grove Guardians, lost without the life of the forest to protect, became hollow shells of their former selves, and the biome's eerie silence is said to have driven them to madness. Now known as the Creaking, they wander in the shadows, sneaking up on unsuspecting victims to capture their souls. The orange glow behind their eyes are embers of the fires that blaze throughout their home. And many believe that destroying a Creaking's heart will
Also
set
dem
free
würde ich
the
sogar noch
spirit of the Grove
zutrauen, dass
Guardian
der
trapped in it.
so einen eigenen
I'm not
Minecraft-Film
gonna lie, guys,
erstellt.
I didn't realize the Creaking was so
Der
misunderstood.
baut sich seine
I kinda feel
Filmkulisse
bad now.
selber und
But you'll have an opportunity to vanquish
macht
the
dann seine
Creaking
eigenen
and free the Grove
Minecraft-Filme.
Guardian spirits when you play the map for yourselves. No spoilers, but get ready for a quest. And on the topic of quests, you may remember that once you complete all the quests in a biome, you'll unlock the biome boss and get one step closer to unlocking the Stronghold Gateway back at the island archives. It's a whole process, but you'll get the hang of it. So that brings us to our final and arguably most important area of our Pale Garden biome. And the very first boss battle zone
Fabi,
of our
vielleicht kannst du
ultimate
mir das
survival
sagen.
world, the Pale
Wie kann
Garden.
der in
I thought it would be
24
really
Stunden
cool for
solche
this place to
Kulissen
feel like a
bauen?
battleground
Wie
for the
macht man
biome.
das?
The original forest biome that was thriving before the eruptions.
Da steckt doch
versus the Pale Garden,
irgendein
an eerie mirror
Programm
image of the
dahinter,
forest,
oder? Der hat das doch
corrupted by the
programmiert.
creaking. This archway
Du machst doch grad
represents the elements fighting
Programmieren.
against each other, with flashes of green
Hast du sowas schon mal
representing the
gesehen?
forest fighting back, and the twisted tendrils of pale oak.
Ich
and
kann mir
glowing
nicht
orange
vorstellen,
of the
dass der
creaking
da
heart,
die Blöcke
representing the
einzeln
corruption of
setzt.
the Pale Garden. And engraved in the floor of the battle zone is an eye,
Nein,
representing the
der baut
ever-watchful
größtenteils,
eye
also
of the creaking,
tut jetzt hier,
always
glaube ich,
lurking in the shadows. Now,
zu
this is an
zweit.
awesome spot for a battle.
Also vorher
But
war
what
er mal
exactly
kurzfristig
are you
zu
guys
zweit.
the Pale Glade Battleground is built? What are we actually going to do for the boss?
Well, it's got to be a giant creaking, right? I feel like everyone will be shouting through their screens at us if we don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it ties in perfectly with the story, and who doesn't want to...
Okay, ja, das kann gut sein, dass der sowas nutzt.
Jeez, whoa, look. Why did he just...
Weil guck mal, der hat jetzt einfach da so ein eigenes Monster auch
Why did he
erschaffen.
just look like he had an accident?
it's his weak point.
Jeez, look at this dude. He's massive.
Look at his butt cheeks. He's like an amplified version of the original creaking.
Yeah. Oh, see ya.
Where did you go? So with the base concept being an obvious choice, we had to think about attacks and functionality.
Ooh, how about a root attack? We can have the boss like reach into the floor, grow these long roots underground, and they can sprout up around the player and trap them there.
That might be a little ambitious, Steph. I don't even know.
Das glaube ich auch. Weil guck mal hier, der programmiert
Like
es.
this?
Der tut irgendwas im Hintergrund programmieren.
Whoa, whoa! What's happened? I'm trapped! I've got to do skill checks. Get me out of here! I'm free! Okay, I'm not going to spoil everything. You guys will have to learn for yourselves how to deal with this big boy. But we did come up with a cool idea for health regeneration.
So, I thought to regenerate health, the boss could spawn these creaking heart totems, which gradually replenish its health bar until they're destroyed.
Oh yeah, I like the idea of that. That sounds great. Right, well there's a ton more to add, Godder. It's time to work your magic to finalise this bad boy. Obviously most of this has got to stay top secret so that he's a worthy opponent when you play the world for yourselves. I'll give you two some privacy.
Okay.
So with the final boss mechanic securely in Godder's hands, this is how
Dieses
our
kleine
Pale Garden
Stimmchen,
has turned
okay.
out.
Aber es ist so krass, was der gebaut hat. So krass.
That was quite a journey. We literally travelled to a different country, took on a 24-hour build challenge, created an entirely custom
In
structure,
24
new
Stunden
mobs,
sowas
an
bauen, ich
entire
komme immer
boss
noch nicht
battle,
drauf klar.
and a ton more. We have so many biomes left to transform, so don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with the project, and let me know your ideas for the next one in the comments.
Es ist so krass gemacht, echt. Also ich find's so genial. So gut.